Hi folks, and welcome to the Jordan 411 show. And I'm very excited to introduce my next guest from New Westminster, BC. He was a retired NFL and CFL defensive tackle. He also won the CFL Most Outstanding Canadian Player in his rookie season, 2001, and he played with the Blue and Gold from 2001 to 2000 to his retirement in 2011. He was a CFL All-Star 8 times. Please give a warm welcome to number 97,
Thanks for having me, Jordan.
You're welcome.
Good to be here.
Was that all correct, by the way?
Yeah, no. I was surprised. You knew my birthplace, you knew my stats and everything like that. Better than a lot of broadcasters I've sat down with, let me tell you. So you were spot on. Well played.
So my first question is, what was your memorable game when you played? Like, your best game of your career?
Oh, wow. Most memorable, best game when I played in the CFL with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Let me think. You know, we had a lot of good teams. We had a lot of good seasons. To pick out one game, I think, is difficult. I had a couple of good games in some Grey Cup games, but we ended up losing. So I don't know how good I felt about after the fact, but statistically, I think in the 2007 Grey Cup, I think I had 8 tackles or something in that game. So that was pretty satisfying, except for the outcome and the end result of the game.
That Grey Cup, I was in my brother-in-law's basement.
Oh, really?
And I saw Brian Dinwiddie threw the pick, and I actually
he threw a lot of those, didn't he?
And I actually went like this.
Me too.
And cried. Did you do that too?
I did exactly the same thing that you did. But here's the thing, he threw 3 of them. So the first one I was like this, and then I was like this, and then the third one I was like this, and then the fumble, and then they scored the touch. Wow. And we only lost by 4 though, so it was a valiant effort.
You think if you would have had Glenn that year, would you have won?
Oh, without, you know what, the funny thing is Kevin Glenn's been a quarterback in the CFL for a very long time, and his best year he ever had was in 2007. He was nominated as the most outstanding player for the entire CFL that year. So it was just horrible, rotten luck that literally with minutes to go in the game before the Grey Cup that he broke his arm. So of course I spent the entire next week trying to convince him that he could still play. And because it wasn't his throwing arm, I'm like, all you use the other one for is to catch it. You got your cast on there. But he refused to play. But had he played, as a lot of us said after the game, I said, Kevin Glenn on his worst day, we still win that game because we only lost by 4. And of course we had 4 turnovers by Dinwiddie, 3 interceptions, 1 fumble, and 1 interception went back for a touchdown. So that was a lot for us to overcome as a defensive group because we played pretty well that day.
And now we'll get into this year a bit.
Okay.
How do you think the new rule changes will affect the play?
You know, I think there's going to be a period of adjustment and adaptation. I think, there's a lot. First of all, there's not just one rule change or 2. There's a lot of, very dramatic differences in the game this year. So not only are defensive backs not allowed to contact receivers and reroute them after 5 yards, you have the point after touchdown kick moved way back. You have the 2-point convert moved way forward. On punt teams, you have the 5 interior linemen not able to release downfield until the ball's kicked. So there's so many all at once. It could really change the the shape of the game and how it plays out this year. I think a lot of success you might see by teams early in the season will be who adjusts and who's practiced it and is been able to compensate with it in preseason.
You think the Bombers done a pretty good job of that?
Well, I know their head coach, Mike O'Shea, very well. We used to both be player reps, and we played against each other a lot when he was an active player. And so that was kind of his reputation, I think, coming to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. He's a real smart guy. He knows his X's and O's. He's pretty shrewd. And when he was a special teams coordinator, he always had something in his bag of tricks, right? So I'm sure he's already brainstormed on these changes and come up with some ideas that he can take advantage of certain situations. I'm sure he'll have a way he'll play out the scenarios too when he makes his decisions on what he should do.
You think coaches will decide going for 2 more because it's at the point after, because it's at the 32-yard line?
Yeah, that's what the CFL tried to do by having that rule change. They tried to put teams in a dilemma saying, okay, you're now only 3 yards away from getting a 2-point conversion instead of 5. And the average CFL play goes for more than 3 yards. So that's a lot more appetizing as opposed to now your automatic point is kicked from the 32-yard line. That's not as guaranteed anymore. So
But it's harder to run a play from the 3-yard line, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a very smart point. A lot of people don't know that. And they're like, well, what difference does it make wherever you run on the field? But the reason it's harder to run a play from the 3-yard line is that your defensive backs don't have as much space to cover, right? So your kind of best defender is that far back goal line that you can't run out. So the box gets a lot smaller for where things have to operate, and a lot less time because people come after you when you're backed up against the goal line like that. So very smart point to say that plays are a lot harder to run from the 3-yard line because the space is so much more limited.
You think we did well in the preseason game?
Yeah, I mean, the Bombers actually haven't won a preseason game in quite some time. So to go out into Toronto and win a preseason game, I think that's another indication that the culture is really changing here in Winnipeg. So this is the second year of the CEO, the head coach, and the GM, and Drew Willie, and all these players. So it's really a new culture and a new way of thinking, and I think winning's becoming more prevalent.
You know Marcel, he was new at the offense last year, just instilling it. Do you think there'll be improvement?
I sure hope so. He was new with this group last year, but he was on the Bombers offense the previous year as well before. So this is really his 3rd year, I believe. But you have to hope with his familiarity now. Obviously, everything on offense runs through your quarterback. So the fact that this is Drew Willie's 2nd year in his system, and they have an understanding of the arsenal and the weapons that they have out on the field, hopefully there'll be continual improvement there because the offense needs to improve almost as much as the defense does from last year.
On the defensive note, how will Richie Hall do?
I think it's going to be great. I think the biggest improvement you're going to see from the Bombers this year is probably going to be defensively because he's much more traditional as a defensive coordinator. A lot of times with Echeverry last year, we weren't quite sure what he was doing and what was going on.
I wasn't either.
Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't have a playbook. I'm like, how
No
do you
playbook.
not have a
Yeah,
playbook?
Exactly. It's when you start, it's that thing you started to worry about his own information, whether his players could absorb it or not. He was worried about people stealing it as opposed to the players being able to learn it. But he just did a lot of unorthodox things, so he had players playing in weird spots in different places. And I think with Richie Hall, you'll see guys playing spots and positions that they've practiced at and played at their entire lives, so they'll be a lot more comfortable, and you'll get a lot better result.
Apparently, Demond is playing a lot of spots this year.
Who's that? Damon Washington?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's going to be playing a lot of
spots on the defense.
Oh yeah. He's a versatile guy, right? So they can move him around. You're anticipating him being used in a number of different spots and places.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a guy. I mean, you know his ability. He can even return, right?
Yeah.
He can return kicks.
And he's good at that.
Yeah, he's good at that. So he's a pretty athletic guy. So hopefully they do use him in certain scenarios in different spots so they can maximize his talents.
Are you into FIFA at all?
A little bit. Yeah, I would have preferred if Canada had been playing here in Winnipeg, but I have watched some of the games. It's pretty exciting stuff.
But it kind of sucks that they can't use invested Blue field, but oh well.
The Bombers can't use the field?
Yeah.
Is there? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the Bombers organization are being compensated very nicely for, they didn't just give it away, and so they're getting a very nice rental fee, but they have facilities all around. The Manitoba Bisons, the collegiate team, had infrastructure here pre-existing the stadium, so my understanding that they've been able to make a good go of it and having training camp, and then they get a nice little check at the end of it. So,
how do you think Kyle did in the off season?
Kyle Walters?
Yeah.
I think he was very aggressive, and we don't know how he did per se until we see everybody play. But I think he definitely was aggressive, went out and got after it. The analogy I like to use is they went name brand shopping this year. Normally they've been looking for discount clothing in the hand-me-down bins.
That's so true.
And now they went out and they bought all the most expensive items at full price. And hopefully you get what you pay for, right? In this analogy in terms of football. So we'll see whether all those guys live up to their big price tags. But you can't fault him for not trying, not being active, and giving effort to try and improve the football team.
I was just looking at your shoes.
Okay.
And they look kind of big. Where do you get your shoes?
I used to, when I was growing up, I used to have to drive down to the States to get shoes that would fit me because my feet were so big. But now I can almost, I usually take size 14 or 15. So you can get them at most stores, but not every kind of model you want.
Like another guy in here, he's 6'5".
Oh, there's another guy in here that's 6'5". Okay. Does he have big feet as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Size 14, I think.
If I didn't have big feet though, I would just fall over all the time, right? Because I had a high center of gravity, so I'd be all like tilting over and stuff.
Were people scared at you going up against you at all?
Were people scared?
Yeah.
I sure hope so. I don't think anyone would ever admit it to you one way or the other, but there's some guys they would never say. No one in professional football would ever say they're scared of someone, but sometimes when they get a little jumpy or they go offside or they make mistakes, they're getting maybe a little worried about playing against you. So there's been some times where they might not have admitted it, but I'm sure there were some players that were a little apprehensive. Would you be scared to play against me?
Yes.
Yeah, you would be.
Because you're so big. You know tact. You know how to be. You're probably one of the best D linemen in the CFL.
Well, that was very kind of you to say. Thank you. It was very nice of you to say. Thank you.
What was it like playing in Labor Day your first time?
It was interesting because when I came up here, I'd never played in the CFL obviously before. I was going in my 5th year of my professional football career, and I didn't know about the whole Winnipeg Saskatchewan rivalry whatsoever. And that was a rude awakening, let me tell you, Jordan. Going down there and just the atmosphere, it was very circus-like. It was a lot of distractions. We stayed in a hotel. There were people calling our hotel. There were people that moved all their furniture into the hallway. There were air horns going off. And my first year in 2001, we actually won the Labor Day Classic because we were actually so angered by all the distractions that none of us had been able to sleep, so we were all cranky, and we went on the field, and I think they should actually try doing that again this year. that might help the outcome, because it's unlike any other game you'll play in the CFL. That Labor Day Classic, it is those Rider fans out there. They get very angry about our presence in their province. So.
Between us and the Riders, who has the better fans? I know they're more wild, but we can get loud too.
Oh, we have. I tell you, when we have some very good fans. They're very well educated to the game, and anytime the Bombers are actually fielding a team that is very competitive and relevant, there's no better group out here. The only difference really between us and the Rider fans, the Winnipeg Blue Bomber fans, the Rider fans, is the Blue Bomber fans actually have other options. So they can do other things other than just support their football team. Riders don't have anything else to do there, right? So that's why they get all this hype and
farming and
press. Yeah, farming and football. Right?
Farming
that's
and drinking, basically.
We forgot, you guys didn't hear it. He said farming, football, and drinking. So that is a complete. I think that there should be a sign when you enter Saskatchewan, home of farming, football, and drinking. That would be.
How was the bus ride over there?
Oh, wow.
I went there I play sledge hockey, so
okay.
I went there for a tournament, and it was brutal.
I agree with you. It was brutal. We used to at least take 2 buses. I never understood. I'm like, why can't we fly out there? And they're like, it's Saskatchewan, planes don't go there. And I was like, oh. Like, I never understood. And they're like, oh, no, there's like 1 flight that comes in here every like 3 weeks. And I was like, wow, that's unfortunate. So, yeah, taking a bus, you get really stiff. Sometimes we started leaving like an extra day, so 2 days before the game, just so we could loosen up a bit, because 6 hours on a bus, as you know, it's horrible, right?
Yes.
Imagine sitting in this chair for 6 hours, And the movies we watched too, some of them were even worse.
And there's just fields there. Like, there's not
just fields.
Not like going to the States. At least they're towns.
It's just a barren wasteland, isn't it? Yeah. This is fantastic. We need to get some viewers from Saskatchewan to watch this.
Yeah.
We'll promote it heavily.
We'll beat you week 1, though.
Yeah, and we'll be there.
Yeah. So I just wanted to ask you I want to be a broadcaster one day. What advice would you give me?
Well, I think you're doing a great job. I'll tell you, you ask some better and more intelligent questions than a lot of people I've actually interviewed with before. And you have a fantastic sense of humor, so I would say keep doing what you're doing. But, if you love something, right, you practice it, and that's what you're doing, and you're involved, and you're doing extracurricular things. But you also, too, you listen to a lot of people, and you watch a lot of people, right? So anytime Bob Irving is on there, you want to listen to him as much as possible. And when you watch the football games on TV too, you're watching just not the game, but you're actually listening to what the people say. But I think you definitely have a knack for this. I'll tell you that right now.
Thank you.
One of the best interviews I've had. So.
And now we'll wrap it up. And my next guest will be he worked with him actually, will be the greatest broadcaster in Blue Bomber history, the one and only Bob Irving!